Hey everyone, hope you all are well. We are going right back to basics today, and I can't believe that I've never actually uploaded a tutorial on this topic before, especially seeing as it's one of the most important steps to getting your eyeshadows to look just like this. It's a step that I never miss as part of my makeup routine, and it's probably the most important step. So today I'm talking you through three different types of primers that I use: neutral primers, tinted primers, and glitter primers. But first of all, is it really necessary? And the answer is not exactly. Like, if you're stuck and you don't have one, or you just don't feel the need for one, but you want to prep your shadows to give them the best chance at lasting all day, try a bit of concealer or foundation and some face powder. So I use a foundation because it tends to be a thinner consistency than my concealer, as you can see here. My concealer is full coverage, and for me personally, it would be too heavy for the eyes and actually counterproductive. Too heavy of a product can actually cause creasing, which is what we are trying to prevent. And the only time that I'll use a concealer on my eyes is for the likes of a spotlight smoky eye or a halo eye. I like to clean up the centre of the lid with this product, and for me concealer works best in this way because it's applied in a thin layer to a small section, usually on the eyelid itself. And I just find all over the eye area is just too heavy of a product, and when it's going from lid to brow bone, it's got more of a chance then of creasing in the fold of my eye, so I usually apply or avoid applying it in this way. So instead now I like to add some foundation to my eyelid. As I mentioned, the one that I'm using is a thinner consistency compared to the concealer, and adding this is just going to blank out any discoloration that I have. It's going to give me a nice blank canvas to start out on. So once I've added my foundation across the eyelid, I then like to set that creamy product in place with some of my face powder. I always use the Rimmel Translucent Stay Matte Face Powder because, as the name suggests, it mattifies the skin, and it does so without adding any more colour. Now my eyeshadows, that are a powder finish, have a nice soft powdery base to apply smoothly on top of. If I didn't do this step and I just layered my powder shadows over that creamy foundation base, they would skip, crease, and they wouldn't show up true to colour, or they wouldn't last any length of time either. I've gathered now a few of my favourite neutral primers. I'm starting with the original Urban Decay Primer Potion. This has a light nude colour to it, but when worked into the skin it dries clear. Same now with the Zoeva Eyeshadow Fix Primer. This one actually mattifies the skin too, which can be beneficial depending on the look that you're creating. And then I've got the number 7 Stay Perfect Primer. This also has a nudish colour to it, but again, when worked into the skin, it's non-existent. So none of these primers provide a lasting tint to the skin or provide coverage in any way, shape or form. I'm just applying the Urban Decay Eyeshadow Primer now to the lid just so you can see how it applies to the skin. All of these primers are nice and lightweight with the exception of the Zoeva primer. That's a bit more heavy duty, but all of these are going to help your shadows adhere to the skin and last all day long as well. Now, the problem with a primer like this though is if your lids are like mine and have a little bit of a discoloration or visible veins, I find those things can still be nearly seen through the eyeshadow. I just don't get a seamless finish to my shadows when I don't kind of conceal or correct the eye area first. I like to have a nice blank canvas to start out on, so as I mentioned before, if I'm using a neutral primer, I'll run some foundation over my lids when I'm doing my face base, then I'll add the primer and the powder shadows. With the primers that I use, I don't need to set them with a face powder first before applying my shadow like I would with just the foundation alone. These primers are tacky enough to grip the shadows to the lid, making them last all day long without being too tacky and causing the shadows to stick in certain parts of the eye area and skip or crease. The next primer I like to use is a tinted one, so an example of which is the MAC Cosmetics Pro Longwear Paint Pot, or a more affordable version, I suppose, is the Essence I Heart Stage Eyeshadow Base. I've run out of this at the moment, but I've used it in plenty of tutorials in the past. The great thing about both of these products though is that they are tinted. The MAC Paint Pot though is very versatile, so depending on the shade that you pick up, it can be used as a cream eyeshadow or a concealer, but today I'm using it to prep the eyes. So with this being tinted, it's going to kill two birds with the one stone. It covers up any discoloration on the eyes, it leaves us with a nice blank canvas to start out on, and it preps the eye area for the shadows that are to come. With this product though, for me personally, it is a bit too tacky to apply my shadows directly on top of. So for that reason, I like to set the cream product in place with some of my face powder. That way again, we've got a nice smooth powdery base for our shadows, our powder shadows, to apply on top of. The last type of primer I'm going to talk about today is a glitter primer. The best one that I've found is actually from Essence, but there are a ton on the market. This is just the Get Your Glitter On Glitter Primer. It's a transparent primer, so like I've mentioned before, if you do have discoloration on the eyes, you would ideally like to conceal that first in whichever way you find suits you best. What you want to do here is just tap it down anywhere that you'll be adding glitter. This type of primer is meant to be a bit tacky, and for that reason I solely use it for glitters or pigments because it really helps them to adhere to the eyes, last all day long, and reduces those glittery particles going everywhere but your eyelid. So those are just 3 different primers that I generally use depending on the look that I'm creating to ensure it looks as best as it possibly can be. I hope you found it helpful, and I'll catch you all really soon.